which I'm not a fan of. Stay there. What do you think? Alright, I'm just going to bring up my screen here so I can keep an eye on what everybody's talking about. Oh, this is frustrating. Hold on. And bear with me just 1 minute, talk amongst yourselves. Rightio, here we are. Yeah, apologies for the late start. I was grabbing my coffee and getting some things tidied up. So this video was actually, it's been a few weeks in the making actually. So it's not as fresh in my mind as when I initially had the plan to do it, but I'm glad we're here now. We had the Taylor Hawkins whole thing go down, so I tried to address that, and people were messaging me constantly, and Taylor, can you believe this? So we got there. Flick on a light. There we go. Man. Yeah, and here we are. We've ended up with this live video, which I've called Let's Talk About Ringo and the Beatles. And if you're wondering why I thought this might be a good topic, or why I am doing this video at all, it's because you guys are probably not going to be surprised by this now, but the Beatles are one of the big bands that I missed. So I know you guys are thinking, who did you see? What bands do you know? You probably got a bit more of an insight into that on the drum intro video that I did. Probably a couple of strange picks in there that hopefully you're not so familiar with. But I'm just going to go back. I'm going to lay this out just so there's absolutely no confusion, because we did get confusion and people's comments were really off the mark when I started looking into Led Zeppelin and Bonham, and then a little bit different with Neil Peart and Rush. So, I would say my knowledge of the Beatles at the moment, my awareness of the Beatles at the moment, would be a little bit more than it was with Led Zeppelin when I started doing the Led Zeppelin videos on the channel, and a lot more than when I started doing the Rush videos. Rush was a band I had heard of. I had heard the name. I had heard of Neil Peart. Never listened to it. Wasn't a band here. Beatles obviously were a band in New Zealand. Foo Fighters. Not Foo Fighters. Who was the other one I was talking about? Led Zeppelin. Definitely big popular band here. I think, yeah, played here a couple of times, I believe, in New Zealand. The Beatles are the type of band that you can't miss. So there's no way you're going to get through your life, especially someone of my age, without hearing the Beatles, clearly. Not to mention all the cover versions and on and on. So what I'm talking about here is I never took a deep dive on them. I think I did have they had an album called Number Ones, something like that, and it was just all the big hits. I think I had that. Might have listened to it casually every now and then. Never dug into album stuff. Never. It wasn't a band I just had on, excuse me, on constant repeat. And I didn't, get to know the parts intricately. Now, another element of this whole Beatles rabbit hole that I might be going down is that, and just to, again, be really clear on where I'm at with the Beatles at the moment, so there's no confusion. They're a band that I've played a lot of their songs. So, again, being a working drummer, you're not going to get decades into a career and not have played Beatles songs, right? You're going to be playing Beatles songs at covers gigs. When I did the cruise ship gig, there was loads of Beatles songs. But remember this, so on the cruise ship gig, you're given charts, you're given music, and you read down the chart, and that's it. You've never even heard the song. You're just reading the notes, and that's the gig. So that's not a deep dive on the Beatles. Me reading through a chart on a cruise ship, just sight reading the notes and the band, playing with the band, that's not a deep dive, because that's just me reading notes. And who knows if the notes are accurate, and who knows if the notes are capturing the feel of Ringo, and who knows if as a band we're capturing the feel of the Beatles. So, with all that said, and still laying out why I'm doing this video, I had a young student come in, and this is becoming more and more regular, more and more common, that a young drum student will come in and want to learn a classic rock song or learn songs by a classic rock band. Had this young girl come in and she wanted to learn Help by the Beatles. Now, of the whole Beatles back catalogue, Help would have been a song, help, like I know that vocal thing. I couldn't think of, what's the feel, what happens in the song, what's the structure? I don't know. I don't know it that well. So we put on Help. And the first thing I do these days is I open up Help in Drumeo, because they've got all the notes there. And I'm sitting there with the student, and we're looking through, and we're sort of analyzing what's going on in the music. And I said, hold on, this is a shuffle. This is fast. I thought, no, he's playing a jazz shuffle here. So jazz shuffle, how can I explain this? So a jazz shuffle, you'd go 1, 2, 3, 4, backbeat, 2, 4, 1. I thought, he's playing a jazz shuffle. It can't be a full-blown shuffle, because it's really fast, right? And the notes were saying it's a shuffle. It's a full-blown shuffle. And I thought, Drumeo, what are you on? I was just about to go up there and Will Smith slap Drumeo, and then I thought, well, before I Will Smith slap Drumeo, I'm going to have a look at Ringo playing this live back in the day, back in the 60s. So I was so shocked and blown away with what I was hearing that I went back and found a live video of the Beatles playing Help in the 60s. Put it on. And fully expecting a jazz shuffle. And it wasn't. It was the full-blown shuffle. I can't play it fast enough to make it sound anything like Help at the moment. Tap, 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 tap. But twice, triple that speed, right? And then I thought, so that instantly my whole world, my whole understanding of Ringo as a player, my whole view on the Beatles actually changed in that moment. And I thought, this is not just a band who is, deservedly famous, who everybody would admit writes great pop songs, iconic legacy band, good singers, great songwriters. Now, watching this live video, I thought, no, this is way more than that. He's a legit badass on the drums. That is a hard shuffle tempo. I can't play a shuffle tempo at that speed. We tried to play the song. I couldn't even play it. And I was like, man, there's a lot going on here. A lot more than I thought, and a lot more than I expected. So the song Help by the Beatles totally changed how I view them. And it really put me in my place from a sense of, man, I haven't done my homework on this band, and I'm shocked. I am shocked at how good this is. Not even getting into the vocals and the songwriting. The live vocals on that 1960s version of Help that I saw were off the charts good. They were beyond good. It was mind-blowing. Primitive foldback monitoring systems back then, no in-ears. You might be lucky to have a few speakers distorting, blaring at you at the front of the stage. And these guys were singing such tight harmonies in tune, this like perfect melody. The band was so tight, it was ridiculous. Now I am aware that they put in their 10,000 hours. I believe it's Hamburg, isn't it? So they had a covers thing in Hamburg, Germany, and you know, they'll just be playing, I think, night in, night out, over and over and over. The band is tight. You can't fake that kind of mileage. And seeing them live, the recording of Help wasn't even as good as this live version. And we're going back to a time when a recording was basically a live version, right? So I mean, it's a performance. I don't think back then in the 60s they're piecing together vocals like, you know, line by line or word by word, which is really common here. You just go through and you try and capture a word or sometimes even a syllable. And then what do you do once you've captured the perfect vocal take? You auto-tune it. Yay! How good is that? So this is way before all that madness. Way before studio perfection. These guys were live perfect. Pretty mind-blowing. All right, I got a bunch of comments coming in. Patrick McNellis. Oh my God, I made it live. Just got home from work too. Awesome. Now, Patrick, did you make a contribution on the last live video? If you did, someone did. I think it was you. And I meant to say thank you. So belated thank you to whoever made a contribution to the channel on the last live video. Patrick, again, just wanted to say thank you. Had so much class with the Taylor videos. Thank you for putting those together, and sorry for your loss. Yeah, that one hit really hard, Patrick. You know, I think I tried to stress as transparently as possible. I was a Johnny come lately with Joey, right? So Joey passed away, again, far too young, and I wasn't even aware of Slipknot. I was aware of them, again, I was aware of the band, I'd never listened to them, right? And then I had all my friends just going, Joey inspired me to play double kick. Joey inspired me to even play the drums, and on and on and on. So then I totally transparently, I hope, and admittedly went in not knowing anything. Foo Fighters, Taylor, different story. Really aware of those guys. I know Taylor's playing inside out, pretty much. I'm going to be doing a bunch of Foo Fighters covers, I think. Because, yeah, he is just the ultimate stadium rock drummer. But, yeah. Patrick, it was you that contributed, so thank you so much. I hate the thought of somebody contributing to the channel and me not acknowledging it. What have we got here? Todd Gaster, well, tickle my hi-hat. Is that what you call it, Todd? And make me a milkshake. Hello, Andrew. Hello, Todd. Don't tickle your hi-hat too much, mate. Bonzolo 23. It's so strange how such a simple and so-called basic drummer could have a sound so recognizable from anyone else. Yes. Now I want to get more into that, but I'll keep reading for now. Patrick again, got to know your roots. Absolutely, Patrick. Todd, Ringo was a punk drummer before punk existed. He just didn't know it. Yeah. I mean, one of these guys that I think I underestimated, and if I'm underestimating him, I'm assuming a lot of people are underestimating him. Ringo, in some circles, in some elitist, I mean, I went to jazz school, so if you want to start talking about elitist snobbery, you know, you might get people who laugh at Ringo. And I mean, this is stuff that was made in the 60s, man. Like, I mean, it's not obviously good to laugh at anybody. But, I mean, laughing at guys like Ringo or, you know, you get it with Lars. I don't want to start the Lars debate. Travis Barker's another one. All these really famous, recognizable, all the people that had a really big impact essentially on music. And the really recognizable drummers, they're really divisive. A lot of it, if you boiled it down psychologically and, you know, sat down on a red couch for long enough, you would boil this down to jealousy. Jealousy of the legacy, of the fame, and the adoration, and put it bluntly, the money. That's my opinion on this anyway. I never rail against any drummers, you know. If there's a drummer I don't like, I just won't listen to them, right? I'm not going to be, you know, raving about how bad a drummer is, you know, especially publicly online. Crazy. All right, what do we got here? Patrick's turned into an alien. Speed of thought 1111. Just making sure I had enough ones in there. Most underrated drummer ever, easily. I'm starting to see what you mean by that. Underrated. Yeah, I think you could misunderstand him as just, you get that quote, he wasn't even the best drummer in the Beatles. Nonsense. Paul McCartney ain't sitting down and playing a shuffle that fast, I tell ya. Christopher Shapir, I was pro-Beatles as a kid, but always thought Ringo was the weak link. It's taken years of listening to drummers to see that I was wrong. Yeah, sure, I mean, we're often wrong, right? As a kid, you know, that's when I would have made big calls. Dave Grohl sucks. I can play Smells Like Teen Spirit. Dave Grohl sucks. Oh, God. But you didn't write Smells Like Teen Spirit. You didn't make up the drum part, and you can't play it like him. So, there's all that. Marlene Pettiford, I really appreciate all your comments. You've been really active on the channel. I really appreciate that. What? Speed of thought? 1111. Nick Mason, Pink Floyd, gets disrespected too? Really? I thought he was held up there in high esteem. Okay, perhaps I'm wrong. Another great drummer. I just don't believe... How can you be in one of these legacy bands? I mean, when you're talking about Pink Floyd, you know, definitely the Beatles, the Rolling Stones. There's another one, another band drummer that gets critiqued, criticized. Charlie Watts, he can't even play in time. He's got no chops. Man, that's not the gig. The gig is to be this greasy, you know, pocket guy that moves with the band. Do they speed up? Hell yeah, they speed up. It's exciting. People are going to these concerts. It's not a Britney Spears concert where everything's on click and we have 60,000 backing tracks. This is live, adrenaline. The Rolling Stones, if they feel like they want to speed up, they'll speed up, sure. This is, in my opinion, what we've lost, and it's amazing to me that people critique it. Marlene, jealousy, you're right. And then Marlene, I always thought Ringo was the cool one. Yeah, I kind of think of him like that too. I haven't watched the Beatles documentary yet, but I've heard critiques that, Ringo doesn't do anything. He just sits there and, you know, the other guys are the smart ones, and Ringo just sits there and plays the drums. He doesn't even contribute. Now, without watching the documentary, hearing that description of a drummer sitting there, listening, these are big, big hit songs. He's thinking about the drum part. He's thinking about what can I do to contribute to this. I'm not going to get in this mess. I'm not going to get in this Lennon, McCartney mess. I'm just going to sit, wait patiently, quietly, and make a drum part that's going to make this song better. Now that sounds to me like the perfect drummer. Perfect. Springy. Oops, I'm late. Not good enough springy. Time out. Sit in the corner. Speed of thought. You need a new YouTube handle. Speed of thought 11111. I've seen the latest doc, and I'd say Ringo is just very savvy about being drama-free, ego-free. You got it, man. This is very different to a dumb drummer who doesn't know about music and just plays the drums when everyone else has done the hard bit. No. Would Rosanna be Rosanna without the drum part? No, you need a great drum part, right? Oh, 1111. Speed of thought 1111. There we go. That's going to make life a lot easier. So yeah, basically the whole motivation, inspiration for this was hearing a Beatles song that shocked me with facility, not with the standard Beatles stuff like the songwriting, the vocals and everything. I was like, man, the drum facility here is really good. It's really high level. Wasn't expecting that. Time's really good. Time was pretty metronomic for the 60s. And that metronomic time feel, that consistency of groove, that's what drives people crazy, right? Yes, we've seen all the Beatles crowd passing out and everything. That's built through a momentum, like a consistency of beat, consistency of feel. This is why disco was so big, and why DJs ended up mixing songs together. There's nothing kills a groove or a night on the dance floor like song fades out, dance floor dies, load up the next song, start it up, few people have sat down, and then we're off again, and the momentum started. If you make this into a smaller thing, this is what happens within a song. So if your time feel is up and down like this, there's no momentum, there's no consistency of beat, there's no trust in the band and the drummer and the music. So, when I first started playing a lot, my time feel wasn't great. And, I'd have much better musicians than me, like, looking at me going, come on, like, dragging or pushing, it needs to be on, man. And a lot better with that stuff now, hopefully. Speed of Thought 1111. Great metronome style 60s drumming in the bands Can and Silver Apples. Don't know either band, so there we go. Springy. I'm in the corner. I'm not saying Springy's an REM, but he's in the corner. Bad. Ringo to me was the right drummer in the right band, like Bonham, Copeland, Peart, Moon, and so on. They're not interchangeable, they're just right. Yeah, that's a good point. Would Keith Moon work in the Beatles? No. I would say no. It's a little bit too chaotic. The Beatles is a bit more controlled. It's controlled chaos. And I just don't see Keith Moon as that metronomic, consistent player. He wasn't like a consistent person either. Whereas, if you threw in another Firebrand into that mix, we got it with Stuart Copeland and Sting, constant fighting, Andy Summers is just sitting there going, yeah, should we do a song or what? I think you need a bit of yin and yang with this stuff. Yep, Springy's in the corner, he's losing his religion. Patrick, big sip from my Drums and Coffee mug. Cheers, Patrick. Christopher Shapiro got my reference. Now this is a really interesting, maybe we should make a separate live video just on interchanging band members from different groups. You know, who would work in the other group. Now I've talked to drummer friends about this, and actually Dan Clayton hit on it in my friend's tribute to Taylor. When we start talking about people who are irreplaceable, we've kind of lost, I think, in modern times with copy-paste, digital perfection, where everything is like sampled anyway. We've lost that individuality, that characteristic. Like, even back in the grunge era, you had really distinctive drummers. Matt Cameron with Soundgarden, Sean Kinney, Alice in Chains. Sean Kinney was not going to be doing the Soundgarden gig. It wouldn't have worked. And then you had, you know, obviously Grohl and Nirvana. And again, Grohl wouldn't have worked in Soundgarden. You know, Matt Cameron was the perfect drummer for Soundgarden. Now, with this whole super drummer thing, where you get freakishly skilled drummers who can more or less do anything, you know, polyrhythms, modulations, crazy speed, chops, linear, gospel, everything, they become more interchangeable. I think there is something to be said for some of the guys that were a bit more limited, because it forced them to be creative within their own world. They weren't super drummers, they had limits, but they had cool stuff going on that other people wouldn't have thought of, that other people wouldn't have done. We've got a bit of Phil Rudd talk here. Now, Phil Rudd's another guy that we're starting to get into that Dunning-Kruger thing of people think they can play like Phil Rudd. You can't play like Phil Rudd. Phil Rudd had one of the best pockets in rock. And I've heard that even from heavyweight LA session drummers. Phil Rudd, pocket, forget it. Best pocket ever. Guy was a serious player. He was a metronome. Yeah. I know you're supporting Phil Rudd with your comments, but yeah, I get a bit passionate with that kind of stuff. Anybody who says, you get a lot of drummers critiquing Phil Rudd, Ringo, Charlie Watts. I could do that. Really? Let's see it. I'm getting a little bit tired of all that whole thing of, you know, I can do that. And then like no subs, no videos. It's like, I can say I'm Napoleon Bonaparte. Doesn't really make much difference because I'm not him. So you can say anything online, but I mean, I can say I'm the best drummer in the world, but it doesn't mean anything, right? So if someone says Phil Rudd's easy, I can do that. I think you're entitled to say, let's see it. Can you show us? It doesn't even have to be in an aggressive way. It's just like, well, let's see it. And then, okay, you even if you're at that point where you're playing along with a recording. So yeah, I can play along with Back in Black and probably bury the track. This is what I talked about on the Taylor Hawkins video. That's different to me playing in AC/DC. It's so different. I don't know how people can't see it. Maybe you need to be a player to see these things. It's totally different. And like Taylor Hawkins, you know, you get people saying, oh, I know the Foo Fighters songs. I could play the Foo Fighters. You're missing another crucial step in the debate. You're not going to be asked to be in the Foo Fighters. Now you have to think about this stuff. That's a massive issue. If you think you can play in the Foo Fighters, you're not going to be asked to play in the Foo Fighters. Or AC/DC. They're looking at the absolute cream of the crop. If they're looking at a replacement, they're going right to the top. They're not, looking for people who are saying on drum forums that they can play like Phil Rudd. Anyway, I'm on a tangent. Phil Rudd is phenomenal. Yes, he is, Marlene. Would Keith Moon work in AC/DC? No, I don't think he would. Have you thought about a Phil Rudd video? This is from Mean Metal Mike. I have. I've been a champion of Phil Rudd for years and years. Actually, a champion for any of these guys that get constantly critiqued. Lars, Charlie Watts, Ringo. Before I even had this whole epiphany with Ringo and the Beatles, I was still a champion of Ringo. I would still back him up and say, hey, no, he doesn't suck. He wrote all these hit songs and he's made about $400 million as a drummer. What are we basing this on that he sucks? I know drummers who don't make any money or a career out of drumming. He did. He's done very well, thank you very much. So it just depends how I know money's not everything. So if we take away the money, he's got all the hit records. Take away all the hit records, he's got this massive legacy. He's inspired probably millions of drummers to pick up sticks. Not to mention how many Ludwig drum kits the guy sold. So on any measure, the guy is a monster. Absolute monster. And as I said before, critiques of these type of people boils down to jealousy, and it's just pointless. And if you really, really don't like one of these drummers, hey, no one can change your mind, and I guess you just keep it to yourself, right? Or it's not something that I would be publicly talking about how bad drummers are, especially ones who are far better than me and far more famous and have done far better than me. Okay, what else we got? Would Joey Jordison have worked on the Beach Boys? Well, the Beach Boys recordings, that's Hal Blaine, right? Who I talked about on the drum intro video. One of the most recorded drummers of all time. Probably be top 2 or 3, if not the most recorded drummer of all time. Yeah, the Beach Boys, that stuff is no joke. You're probably never ever gonna hear a legit cover of a Beach Boys song. Far too difficult. Vocal harmonies, forget it. Not to mention thousands of instruments and yeah, crazy arrangements. Mean Metal Mike, no one ever gives Phil Rudd his solid credit. Well, I think some people do. I think people like me, other working drummers that I've talked to, they all have massive respect for Phil Rudd. So I think some people do. Nah. I was going to say something, but I won't. Ash drums, 30-second note double kick drums over the sounds of I Might Not Always Love You. Are we talking about Phil Rudd there? I'm not sure what song we're referring to there. Christopher, Bill Berry REM was the Ringo of the 80s, perfect for his band. I went on a road trip on the weekend, speaking of REM, had a gig up north. It's about a 4-hour drive north of where I live. And on the way up, we had a bit like a mix going on in the car. And Losing My Religion came on. And I was instantly, because we were just A-Bing songs, random songs were coming on. And then that one came on and I was like, man, listen to the drums. The drums sound like $1 million on that recording. Just sensational. Up north in Mordor. Exactly. Band meeting? Brett. Present. Actually, we should start all of these live videos with a round table of, I'll ask who's present. And my best Murray. Flight of the Conchords accent. Speed of Thought 1111. I don't understand why Mitch Mitchell basically never worked again after Hendrix. He was one of the best of the 60s. Thinking about his interchanging drummer idea. I wonder what he could have done. Did he not work again? He's another one of these guys. Jimi Hendrix, another one of these guys that I didn't have on any type of playlist growing up. I listen to Mitch Mitchell now and it's a miracle. It's a bit like there's a guy I constantly forget, the drummer for Santana at Woodstock. He reminds me of his style. Who was that? Michael someone or Shaq? Someone Shaq. This perfect mix of... He sounds like someone who hasn't played a lot of rock, but he's a jazz guy. And he's approaching the rock music like a jazz guy. The transcriptions of the Jimmy stuff are crazy. They're so difficult to play like Mitch Mitchell. Another guy I need to check out, absolutely blows me away. Anytime I do a critical listen on any of the Jimmy stuff, typically for a student, I'll get a student come in and go, I want to learn Purple Haze. And I'm like, oh man, this is really difficult. These songs are really difficult. Drumming is crazy. It's all over the place. Michael Shreve. Thank you, Springy. That's the guy I'm thinking of with Santana. Michael Shreve reminds me of Mitch Mitchell, the approach. It's very jazz, very improv, but with a backbeat. Crazy fills. It's really fiery. They're going for stuff. They're not playing it safe. Phil Rudd's a different beast, like pocket, perfect strip back for AC/DC. This is a whole different world of like 60s fire, where you're absolutely just going in. Mitch Mitchell to me sounds like one of these guys who, end of the gig he falls off his drum chair. He's just gone that insane. Let's have a look. I think someone here is suggesting Matt Gatzka for the Rush drum throne. That'd be interesting. Ash Drums. In the deepest, darkest, futuristic fantasies, an app that allows you to pick a famous band and then pick and swap any other famous drummer to show you what their interpretation of the songs. That is a great idea, man. Excuse me, sorry for the coughing. You were a champion of Phil Rudd? ? That's risky. How much did he pay you? See, we're still going to get people who don't rate other drummers. What do we got? Five drummers that got me hooked on drums. This is Mean Metal Mike. Rudd, Bonzo, Moon, Chris, Powell. Yeah, of those drummers, I was most familiar with Phil Rudd. Not so familiar with Moon. A lot more familiar with Bonzo now, and I've got a few more Bonzo drum covers coming up. Peter Chris, right? Don't know the drumming very well, and Cozzy Powell, I don't know the drumming very well, to be completely honest. Yes, Spring It, yeah, it was Michael Shreve with Santana. P. Doherty, 926, that Santana Woodstock performance is killer. Everyone is playing their faces off. Citation needed, but I believe the drummer was only in the band for a few months at that point. Yeah, I think the drummer, Michael Shreve, he might have been 17 at the time. Mind-blowing. Absolutely mind-blowing. Total jazz. He's playing jazz behind that man that day. Don Cake, sorry for the pronunciation. There's a video somewhere where Ringo talks about being naturally left-handed, but his grandmother trying to force him to be right-handed, which contributed to his drumming style. Yeah, I hear a lot. Now, this is something that I want to get into in my deep dive of Ringo. I hear a lot of things about Ringo that I myself haven't verified. He starts all his fills with his left. Does he? Well, let's have a look at that. This is the kind of stuff I want to look at. I don't just want to repeat things that I hear. I want to actually have a look. So, now we've got a cool question here. Ash Drums, serious question, Andrew. Who are your top 5 drummers? Mine would be Bonham, Grohl, Mitchell, John Theodore, and Ilan Rubin. Then particularly Grohl and Bonham are the most influential for me, and actually 4 of mine have all been influenced by Bonham. He's the meta. Yeah. Incredible how many people cite Bonham. I think Taylor Hawkins, at one point said something like, Bonham is just, he's the greatest. He is, and this is all personal for what you listen to, of course. He's the guy. He's the greatest. So for me, this is probably, again, another separate video, but I think if I have to think on my feet here really quick, my number 1 guy is Jeff Porcaro, without a doubt. And I did an interview with Steve Porcaro. You can find that on my podcast, the NZ Drummer podcast, where I talked to Steve Porcaro about Jeff, who obviously passed away a number of years ago now. Jeff is, for me, he's a little bit in a league of his own. Day in, day out, recording stuff at that level, mad. You still get drummers fumbling over Rosanna. Rosanna's only 1 song. Jeff Porcaro recorded thousands, literally thousands of songs. Rosanna's only 1 of them. And remember, Rosanna's just a take. Steve Porcaro confirmed this in the interview. He said, no, it's just a take, start to finish, no click track. There is no click track on any Toto song. Think about that for a minute. When you think of, their back catalogue. Okay, Jeff Porcaro's 1. A strange one for me that I can't not cite is Tony Thompson, the drummer for Chic. He was also did a little bit of session work, or a lot of session work for Nile Rodgers, obviously with the Chic connection. Tony Thompson, I think he is one guy who's really influenced my personal style. I'm not saying I sound like Tony Thompson. It's just I don't know what it was about him, his musical decisions that he'd make, like his unique approach to fills, but just sitting in the pocket. It was something I really dug. Jeff Porcaro, Tony Thompson. I'd still have to have JR, I think, John Robinson in there. Another guy that just created such iconic drum parts. And for someone like me who went to jazz school and I'm a freelancer, right? So I really look to the session guys. And then, I don't know where that leaves all of my favorite grunge drummers like Sean Kinney and Matt Cameron. Okay, who we got so far? Jeff Porcaro, Tony Thompson, JR. I think I would have to have Dave Grohl in there. Dave Grohl is just a phenomenal drummer. Obviously a phenomenal musician, phenomenal drummer. That recent thing he did, I did a reaction on it, of him playing Smells Like Teen Spirit live. It's like, man, he is achieving that sound that you hear on the recording. He's achieving it right here in front of us, live, now. He recorded that song 30 years ago. 30? Yeah, 30 years ago. And he can just sit down and play it like that and sound like that now. I don't know who other than Taylor Hawkins could sit down on that kit and achieve that sound like right now, here, live. Phenomenal. That leaves a fifth drummer. I mean, it could be so many people, but I'm gonna have to think about number 5. Penny, hi. Sorry, I'm late. It's not good enough. Go and sit with Springy on the naughty step in the corner. That's where the latecomers have to go. Ash Drums. I think if you ever took the time to react to an entire album one day, you should definitely do the Mars Volta Deloused album. Then you'll know what's up with John Theodore. It will blow your mind. Yep, John Theodore, certainly heard a lot about him. Yeah, not that familiar with the Mars Volta, unfortunately. There was Thomas Pridgeon took over in that band. Is that right? Cheers, by the way. So if you are joining the stream late and you're wondering why I'm not talking about Ringo at the moment, we've veered off a little bit, which is fine. But yeah, this all came about from a student who brought in Help, the Beatles song, brought up the transcription instantly with Drumeo. Go pick up your free 30-day trial with Drumeo, follow my link. Access to thousands of songs at your fingertips for free. Come on. Looked up the song on Drumeo and was shocked at the facility required to play that drum part. So that's where all this came from. And again, just to clear up any confusion, I had people saying, how can you never have heard of Rush? How come you've never heard of Led Zeppelin? I've heard of them. You don't go through life without ever hearing of these people. You just might not have taken a deep dive. And as a drum teacher, as a full-time drummer, a deep dive for me is a proper deep dive, right? Where I transcribe drum parts, where I look into characteristics of a drummer, what they do, how they do it. A proper analysis, investigation into the drummer. I mean, just hearing a song in the background at the supermarket is not, that's not a deep dive for me. I need to actually take time, critically listen. So, aware of the Beatles, have played a number of Beatles songs, never did that critical listen, and studied Ringo. So that's where we're at. Ringo kind of brought that pocket playing. Yeah, he did. And just, some of his parts were so simple, come together. There's one with the flaut-on. Dum, 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 dum. Ticket to Ride is another one that springs to mind, probably because I'm a bit more familiar with that one for some reason. I must have taught it to a student at some point and really dug into it. You listen to Ticket to Ride and it's like, man, I wouldn't change a note. He's playing the perfect part. And it constantly evolves. Do, ga, do, bra, bra, do. Those quarter note triplets. Do, da, da, boom, ba, ba, boom, da, da, boom, ba, ba. But then later on in the song, I think it's like do, da, do, da, do. Sorry. Do, da, do, da, da, da. Anyway, it changes. It's not that triplet thing for the whole song. If you recorded Ticket to Ride now, you'd get the drummer to play that part, you'd quantize it, of course, and then you'd copy paste so it's the same for the whole song. Those songs are not like that. They change. The vocals change. He changes with the vocals. Bass line might change a bit. Changes his drum part to change with the bass part. We've lost all this. Different conversation, but it's sad nonetheless, and relevant to why Ringo's so good. Ash Drums. Ringo's hi-hat playing was his signature. The way he would swing and wash his arm on it. Wash his arm on the hi-hat? Yeah, I totally agree. Hi-hat is actually, when you think about it, hi-hat is actually what provides all the feel on the drums. Kick and snare placement are important, and different drummers will place them in different places. think of guys like Phil Rudd, who have just a beautiful sense of where the kick and snare should line up in the bar, in the groove. But a lot of the actual feel and the connective tissue is the hi-hats. Yeah. Springy. The great thing is loads of drummers on your channel are new to me, and loads of my favorites are new to you. It's great to discover and share. Absolutely. That's why I'm always shocked at how fired up people get. I did my drum intro video. Someone commented something like, "I can't believe this. How did you leave out?" Oh, it was like, cool list, but I cannot believe you left out blah blah blah. It's like, but it's my list. You didn't, you're not me. You didn't grow up, go to the schools I went to, and have my parents, you hear their music growing up. This all impacts it. We're all totally unique and individual in that sense. So me not digging something that you dig, that's fine. It doesn't matter. Or the other way around. That's life. It'd be very boring if we all loved the same thing in drums, right? There'd be nothing to talk about because we'd all know what's the best and what we like the most. Oh, excuse me. I'm going to wrap it up there, I think. But yeah, hopefully I'm going to dig into some more Beatles stuff. Beatles are notorious blockers on YouTube, but I think that might have been relaxed a little bit because I've seen a few Beatles covers coming up recently, so maybe that's changed with their copyright stuff, I'm not sure. But it'd be quite cool to actually get some isolated Ringo parts and listen to those with you guys and see what we find, because I'm sure there's going to be loads of surprises in those isolated Ringo drum parts. And we might just get a little surprise. I'm feeling like we might just get a little surprise, a little bit of a shock at how technically good Ringo was and how difficult some of those parts were, not to mention how appropriate and how musical they are. There's no debating that. You don't debate record sales. Album sales, single sales, they are what they are. A song's either a hit or it's not. There's no debate whether the drum parts are good or appropriate. That's not up for debate. So I think it's going to be interesting to look at the other stuff with Ringo, the technical side, and maybe attempt a few covers. I imagine, like Mitch Mitchell, who we talked about before, he's going to be very, very difficult to cover Ringo. It's just unique characteristics. He's not on the grid. It's not perfect metronomic, quantized drumming. It's, that's the problem I've got at the moment. With been doing a few Led Zeppelin covers. Obviously it's all on the timing fluctuates, and if you're doing a cover, you try and do your best to follow along and try and bury the track. But yeah, it can be a bit unpredictable. And living in 2022, we're used to playing along with things that are metronomically precise. You actually end up getting a lot of drummers who sound like machines from this era. You're even getting singers who sound acoustically, organically like auto-tune. Believe it or not, you're actually getting singers now who sound like they're auto-tuned, but it's actually part of their singing voice now. Yeah, a lot of tangents we've gone on today, but yeah, hopefully you've dug this live chat, and I look forward to seeing you on the next one. I need to go and edit tomorrow's video before I head off to start my teaching for the day. So it is a full-on busy, crazy day, crazy life, but I really appreciate you guys joining me today for this chat. And apologies if I didn't get to read out your message, but I'll do my best. Thanks again, and I'll see you guys on the next live video. Take care. Ciao.